Inferences. Tactic 4, Part A. In the following excerpt, Norman Tubal, a 15-year-old Sioux, goes to Mr. Brannon's trading post. Read the selection and then follow the directions in parts B and C. The large front room of the building was dim in the fading sunlight. Okay, visualize as I read. Visualize the sun fading. Let's get back to that. The large front room of the building was dim in the fading sunlight. Norman hesitated in the open door when he saw that Mr. Brannon wasn't there, but then walked slowly into the store. So what time of day is this? The counters and shelves were loaded with souvenir items of gaudy jewelry, child-sized cowboy hats and headdresses, fancy belts, pretty colored stones. Norman moved slowly down an aisle between shelves stocked with canned goods. He walked by the rack of shiny, bright shovels, axes, pitchforks, tools that would make it a pleasure to do chores. He gave an envious sigh and moved on. Norman stopped to look up at the guns hanging on a rack over a counter. Ah, he sighed. There was the rifle he longed to own. If only he had the courage to take it in his hands and examine it. Norman wanted to touch the gun so much that without volition, his hand slowly raised and he reached for the rifle. Suddenly, bright lights illuminated the room and a harsh voice commanded, "Stop!" Norman, startled and blinking in the brightness, spun around on his heels and saw Mr. Brannon, his hand still on the light switch, standing by the door to the back room. "What do you think you're doing?" the trader accused. "Trying to steal a rifle while I was out?" No, Norman stammered nervously. No, Mr. Brannon, I wasn't going to steal it, honest. I was just going to look at it." "Well, you do your looking without touching," the trader sneered. "What are you doing here this time of day anyway?" Okay, there's Norman there. And with Mr. Brannon. Okay, let's make sure we get it all focused in there for you. Norman held out a bag half full of rocks. "I got some more. Oh, I got some more. Agats," Mr. Brannon said. Got some more agats? Mr. Brannon said. Let's look at that word. What does that mean? Okay, petrology. Petrology is the study of rocks. Agat is a noun. An ornamental stone consisting of a hard variety of chalcedony, typically banded in appearance. These are specialized words, so I'm not really too familiar with them. Chalcedony is a cryptocrystalline form of silica composed of very fine intergrowths of quartz and monagnite. I don't know if I said the last word correctly, but the other words I did say correctly. And this is all deals with kind of like the study of rocks and the fact that we like to look at translucent stones, multicolored translucent stones. Agats are that, okay? Agat. "Oh, got some more agats?" Mr. Brannon said. I'm glad you brought them, boy. I need more now than the tourists will be flocking in this summer. I was just loading the tumbler with the agats I had left. That's why I wasn't out here when you came in." "Tumbler?" questioned Norman. "What's that?" The trader laughed. "Ha ha, boy. Don't you know that I cut those rough agats into smaller sizes? Put them in a tumbler that polishes them up? Tourists like to buy the polished gemstones." "You sell agats to the tourists?" Norman asked in surprise. "What did you think I did with them?" the man asked scornfully. Norman shook his head. He felt foolish because he had never wondered what the trader did with the rocks. Then he became angry as he realized that the trader had been making money from the agates and gave Norman only candy in exchange. "Why don't you give me money for the rocks I bring you?" Norman demanded, and then looked at the floor, frightened by the boldness of his words. But Mr. Brandon laughed. "Ha ha ha. No, boy. Don't you be getting big ideas, boy. You've been happy with candy for 5 years. Besides," the white man went on between chuckles, "those rough rocks ain't worth nothing until they're prettied up." He turned and filled a small paper sack with gumdrops. Norman felt trapped. He knew the trader was cheating him, but what could he do? If only he could polish the rocks himself, the boy thought. Then he could sell directly to the tourist and not bother with Mr. Brandon. "How much does one of those tumblers cost?" Norman asked. "You're getting all kinds of uppity ideas, ain't you?" The trader leaned over so that his face was close to Norman's. "Don't you think of going into competition with me, boy?" he said in a low, threatening voice. Norman picked up the paper bag of candy and walked out of the trading post without answering. As he went down the steps, he heard the trader laughing again. Stifled anger made the blood pound in the boy's ears, and he broke into a jolting stride. Tactic 4, Part B. Below are inferences about Mr. Brandon. After each one, in your own words, give evidence. That means evidence from the text that supports it. Right? After each one, in your own words, give evidence that supports it. The inferences about Mr. Brandon. You may have to use a combination of clues from the selection. Number 1, Mr. Brandon does not trust Norman. Okay, and that's easy. We'll do the first one together. Number 1, we're just going to come back here, and he goes, quote, trying to steal the rifle while I was out. Right? That says everything right there. Number 1, Mr. Brandon does not trust Norman, and you will put that in there, and I'll give you 3 points for that. Okay, then now the rest you got to find on your own. Okay, number 2, Mr. Brandon takes unfair advantage in his business dealings with Norman. Evidence from the text. Number 3, well, and then you'll state what it means, right? And then you'll give evidence from the text to back up what you think that means, or to prove that Mr. Brandon takes unfair advantage in his business dealings. You'll find the text and then explain why it makes sense and shows that Mr. Brandon takes unfair advantage of Norman. Okay. Number 3, Mr. Brandon is a bully, at least with Norman. All right. And so then now this is the listening portion of this section today. So we have this picture. Can you infer what happened before these kids started to play here? Why is the scene like this? Okay. Look at them, filled with so much joy, and look what's around them. Okay, and then where did this take place? When and where? Right there. Seville, Spain, 1933. Okay, here we go. Tactic 4, Part C. To answer the questions below, you must make inferences about Norman's character. Number 1, how does Norman feel toward Mr. Brandon at the beginning of the selection? Make an inference. Number 2, was Norman intending to steal the rifle as Mr. Brandon charged? Why or why not? Explain yourself. Number 3, is Norman generally shy and respectful to Mr. Brandon, or bold and rude? Why? Number 4, does Norman seem to be industrious or lazy? Why? And number 5, why does Norman feel anger toward Mr. Brandon at the end of the selection?